And joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, NBC Chief White House correspondent and Weekend Today co-anchor Peter Alexander, and former Republican congressman from Florida, David Jolly. So, Ryan, start us off. Now that they've launched this impeachment inquiry, the House Republicans, without any hard evidence, what's next? And is there any movement on other priorities, like the border, Ukraine, Israel?
Well, to answer your second question, Andrea, there are talks that are continuing around this supplemental package, which would include some new policies connected to the border, but there is really no realistic path to getting that piece of legislation over the finish line before the Christmas holiday. In fact, members of the House of Representatives are already long gone. I tried to get to talk to some of them just a few minutes ago, and they told me they had to rush to get to planes. So the idea that the Senate could come up with something even in the next 24 to 48 hours and then leave it for the House to get the House members to all come back is a long shot. So this is likely something that will be punted to the new year. But to your point about impeachment, Republicans have now set the stage where they are going to have to come up with the goods. There will be no more excuses as it relates to this investigation. And they have certainly thrown a lot at the wall, but they've yet to deliver that piece of hard evidence that directly links the current president, Joe Biden, to any of his son's business dealings and further connects that to any sort of influence peddling by the president and any of his official capacities, either as vice president or now as president. So the next stage of all of this is that they're going to continue the process of deposing witnesses, conducting interviews, and then they'll ultimately have to come up with a report that would lead to articles of impeachment. Andrea, many of these Republican members have said they're not prepared to vote for articles of impeachment yet. We'll have to see if that changes in the next couple of weeks.
Peter Alexander, how did the president respond to the House vote? The backdrop, of course, to all of this is inflation is easing, according to the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. All the economic indicators are really looking strong. Strong in a good way, not strong in a dangerously inflationary way. But the voters don't seem to be picking up on that.
Yeah, Andrew, you make a couple good points in that question. Let me get to the first, which is specifically the president's reaction to that impeachment inquiry. The White House posting a statement from President Biden late yesterday where he described this as a baseless political stunt. We'll put it up there that you can read along. And said he wrote, instead of doing anything to help make Americans' lives better, they, the Republicans, are focused on attacking me with lies instead of doing their job on the urgent work that needs to be done. They are choosing to waste time on this, again, baseless political stunt that even Republicans in Congress admit is not supported by facts. The president being very critical of those Republicans right now, saying instead of focusing on issues like Ukraine, Israel, and border security, he said Republicans in Congress won't act to help, repeating that multiple times in his statement. And the White House, having spoken to aides to the president earlier today, they are warning about the potential for this to have a real impact on the economy going forward. The economy, as you noted, that is seeing some real strong signs right now, with the potential for a government shutdown increasing as the days pass. Early January, obviously, is going to be do or die time as it relates to the potential for a shutdown. Just yesterday on the economy, we saw the stock market get to an all-time high, a record high, and it reminds you of something that Donald Trump posted back in 2019 on then Twitter, now X. He wrote the following. He said, "You mean the stock market is hit an all-time record high today, and they're actually talking about impeachment?" Well, in fact, that is the case this time around as it relates to President Biden. The stock market is at an all-time high. Donald Trump himself said the stock market would plummet under Joe Biden if he became president. It's at an all-time high, and House Republicans are talking about impeachment right now. As it relates to the economy, there are those strong signs right now, some new indicators. The consumer sentiment is getting more optimistic. But again, Andrea, to be clear, the White House does face some real challenges on this issue to try to better convince Americans that Joe Biden deserves credit for the economy the way it is right now. Still, Americans in many parts of the country frustrated by rent being high and the price of food still being too high. But obviously, as we heard from the Fed just yesterday, inflation going in the right direction and likely to be as many as 3 more cuts, according to Chairman Powell, next year.
And David Jolly, with all that good economic news, what do you make of the party's vote yesterday? They had no agreement on other priorities like Ukraine, the border, or Israel. And they launched this impeachment inquiry. They've been investigating for a year, and they have not come up with anything. No direct links.
That's right. And Donald Trump's Department of Justice had 4 years to investigate this and could not uncover anything. No charges were brought by the Department of Justice or U.S. attorneys, but House Republicans believe that they have evidence that the world has not seen. Andrea, I do believe this has been scripted since January. Republicans have plotted this out, and I do think they will move towards impeachment next spring for the specific reason that if you've now voted to open up the impeachment inquiry, even if you're one of those 18 Republicans or so from Biden districts, to not impeach Joe Biden now would be seen as an exoneration by Republicans. And though that is probably the right outcome based on the facts, politically, I think Republicans will ultimately move to impeach the president. And so the question then becomes, what is the White House response? Thus far, we have seen them very dismissive, rightfully so, of the substance of the investigation. But I'm not sure a dismissive posture is actually the right approach at this point. Because what Republicans are doing really is so foolhardy, I think you've got to take an aggressive posture and crush Republicans' narrative from now till next November to embarrass them for what they're doing on behalf of the institution.